Hello, everyone. I am going to share my screen. Good to be here at this Howard County venture, which is very exciting to be in our first one in Howard County. So exciting. So I hope everyone can see my presentation. And again, using LinkedIn to end your job search, execute a career pivot, pursue entrepreneurship, or become a subject matter expert. So I'm going to be moving pretty quickly in the hopes that we'll have time for Q&A. All right, so let's see. So again, good morning. I do small group LinkedIn trainings for public libraries in Maryland and in New York, and career development organizations throughout the US. My focus is on job seekers, career transitioners, nonprofit leaders, and small business owners 45 and older, because we have a slightly different relationship with social media than our younger counterparts who seem comfortable putting what they're doing, where they're eating, what they're drinking, where they're shopping, where they're vacationing on the World Wide Web. That's a part of their brand, but we have legitimate online privacy and security concerns that need to be addressed. And so I try to teach in a way that respects those legitimate concerns and to focus on how you can get the most out of 30 minutes on LinkedIn every day, which is what I recommend. 30 minutes of LinkedIn every day, particularly if you're a job seeker, but also if you are an entrepreneur. So can I hide the floating controls, make sure everyone sees? Yes. So why is LinkedIn essential if you are 50 and better? It helps you address some of the stereotypes of older workers, which is that we're not tech savvy, that the employer is going to have to spend a lot of time just teaching us how to use a computer. Well, obviously, you know how to use a computer if you're on LinkedIn because you can't use pencil and paper for LinkedIn. You're obviously on a computer. And you've learned something new in the last 20 years because LinkedIn is only 21 years old. It enables you to exponentially expand your network at a time when it's contracting without leaving your house, which is great. You're not wandering around in ballrooms paying $25 an hour for parking, trying to figure out how to distribute as many business cards as you can and think of small talk. You can do it right at home in your comfy pants. And as we age, people that we worked with, people who mentored us, they're aging out of the workforce. So our network just naturally starts to contract. But LinkedIn allows you to expand it and grow your network based on your interests. And so it's a really good tool for growing your network because finding a job or growing a business is all about networking. Also, it enables you to get the information you need to know that's never in the job announcement because no job announcement is ever going to say we've had a lot of turnover here because the director of our department is toxic, right? But someone might share that with you over coffee or virtual coffee. Once they've built a relationship with you over LinkedIn, they've gotten to know you, they feel they can trust you. And that's the kind of information we need so that we're not applying for toxic situations. Also, 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find candidates. So you need to be where they are looking for you. If you are not there, you are invisible to them. You don't exist. I even spoke with my sister-in-law, who is a HR specialist for a large sporting goods company. And she said if she has your resume and she's looking for more information about you, which she is going to do, and she goes and you're not on LinkedIn, that is a reason for her not to consider you any further. So you really, really need to make use of LinkedIn. You need to be there. And also people who are 40 and under, they do everything online. So again, this is where they're looking for you. This is where you need to be. It also allows you to control and tell your professional story beyond your resume. Um, because as you heard earlier, resumes are limited to 2 pages, right? So here's where you can put some of the information that you can't fit onto the resume. And it's important that your LinkedIn profile not just be a replication of your resume. It needs to be more than that so that if I have your resume already and I'm looking for more information, that's where I'm going to get it. More information, not the same information, more information. That doesn't mean they shouldn't that your LinkedIn profile should not track your resume. It definitely should, but it should not be just your resume. So this allows you to control and tell your professional story beyond your resume, especially if you are transitioning to a new career or a new industry. This is where you can make that pivot. All right. So here are the biggest misconceptions about LinkedIn: that it's just your resume and a photo, that it's only about employers finding and connecting with you, and that all you have to do is create a perfect, quote unquote, perfect profile with all the keywords, and recruiters are going to be knocking down your door. And this is what I hear from people who tell me, oh, I don't think LinkedIn is really works or is really valuable because I created a profile and, I put the keywords and then like nothing happened. And I'm like, yeah. You know why nothing happened? Because there are nearly 1 billion profiles on LinkedIn. Okay. And none of us are truly unique professionally. There are lots of program administrators, office assistants, office managers, technical editors, thousands of them worldwide. So the question is, why would I choose you? Right? Why, out of all the thousands of people that do what you do, why would I choose you? That's the case you need to make. And just having a profile with a title and a photo is not going to do it. You have to do more. The if you build it, they will come approach does not work. Okay, because LinkedIn rewards activity with visibility. So the more active you are, the more you give endorsements, write recommendations, share, comment, like, post, grow your network. All of this feeds into the LinkedIn algorithm that makes you more visible to the people in your network who can help you most, to the recruiters, to, the order. If someone types a skill set into the search box on LinkedIn and LinkedIn presents the thumbnails of the people who fit that skill set, that order is not random. It's not alphabetical. It's based on an algorithm that takes into account things like, is this a first or second degree connection? The more connections you have, the more likely it is it's going to be a second degree or first degree connection. Are you in the same geographic location as this person? And are you active on LinkedIn? All of that is taken into account. Do you have a complete profile? All of that is taken into account as LinkedIn is determining the order of people that are shown once you type in a skill set into that search box. So I want to just make a quick distinction between resumes and LinkedIn profiles. Your resume is essentially just a list of what you've done for your previous employers. It's backward looking. It must be 2 pages. It must be in the third person. You must account for every month of your time for the last 10 to 15 years. And the emphasis is on job titles because you are trying to show a progression in terms of their level of responsibility. And it's filled with what I call resume speak, mission-driven, results-oriented, mission-focused, experience, demonstrated history of, proven, a bunch of words that I have never known a recruiter to ever type into a search box when they are looking for someone. I've talked to recruiters. They have never typed demonstrated history of into the search box when they're looking for someone on LinkedIn, or results driven. It's just not in there. Or even enthusiastic, right? And these are energetic or innovative, or all of these words that we put on our resumes that are really wasted on LinkedIn. And so what you instead want to focus on your LinkedIn profile is the skills you are offering to your next employer. The emphasis is on your skills, not titles, because titles are not universal. Just saying you are an executive director or a program manager, that doesn't give me any information about the breadth or scope or depth of your expertise. If you were a program manager, were you managing a $600,000 budget or a $6 million budget? I don't know. You just said program manager. That's it. Were you managing 6 people or 50 people? I don't know. All you put was program manager. So again, you need to give me more details because, again, as a viewer, it's not my job to figure all of this out because I can just scroll to somebody else. It's your job to tell me in 10 seconds, just by looking at your about section and everything above that, where your level is, what you're able to do for me if I hire you. Your LinkedIn profile is forward facing. It's what you're going to provide to your next employer who could care less about your previous employers. They really only want to know what you can do for them going forward, what expertise you bring to the table, okay? It should be in the first person because we know you wrote this and you're telling your story. And leave the superlatives to your recommenders. Since we know you wrote this, there's no need to do all of this, puffing yourself up, right? Let somebody else say how great you were. You just give me the facts. And one of the reservations a lot of people have, well, I don't want to feel like I'm bragging. You're not bragging if it's a fact. If you managed 7 people, that's not bragging, that's a fact. If you managed a budget of $10 million, that's not bragging, that's a fact, okay? If you, reduced costs by 20%, that's not bragging, that's a fact, okay? Also, your resume, your LinkedIn profile only needs to include jobs that reinforce and emphasize your skill set. So if you are working a job right now as a cashier, but you're really an accountant, you only need to put on the accounting jobs and, if possible, volunteer experience. And this is something that someone mentioned previously about that all-important volunteer experience. So if you are using your accounting skills in a volunteer capacity while you are working that job as a cashier, you can use that volunteer job as your current position on your LinkedIn profile, as long as you indicate that it is unpaid, that it is volunteer. But then you get to talk about those accounting skills that you're currently using versus the skills, the accounting skills that you're not using in that current paid position because you need to pay your mortgage. Your headline should focus on the 2 to 4 skills you offer to any employer, regardless of what the job title is. What is it that you bring to the table, no matter what you call me, whether it's coordinator, manager, it doesn't matter. What matters is the skills that you offer to that next employer. The message of your profile should not be, I'm unemployed. So what, you and a million other people. The message of your profile should be, I can help you meet your challenge. I can help you meet your needs. I can help you service your clients better if you hire me. This is what I can do for you, employer, not what they can do for, not what the employer can do for you. It's not about what you want. It's about what you offer, because they're not paying you to meet your highest, use all of your various skills and pull it all together and be fulfilled and all that. Nope, that's not what they're paying you for. They're paying you to meet their challenge. And so you want to address that. You want to say, here's what I can do for you. And then you want to make sure your profile is filled with what I call searchable specifics. And you can find those on the job announcements of the positions that you're applying for. What keywords are they using over and over again? And you want to make sure that those words appear on your profile. So again, if you're applying for sales manager job, you need to have sales and manage on your profile, because that's what someone looking for you is going to type into the search box. If your industry uses a particular software, PeopleSoft or Salesforce, you need to have that on your profile, because that's what I'm going to be typing into that search box when I'm looking for someone who knows how to use Salesforce. All right, so everybody says if you're a job seeker, LinkedIn is essential, but they don't necessarily tell you why. And I think the why is important to motivate you to spend that 30 minutes that I recommend. Employers hire colleagues and coworkers, not resumes. I don't work next to a resume, I work next to a person. So LinkedIn allows you to become someone a potential employer knows, likes, and trusts, because you are connected to someone they know, like, and trust. But also you are creating an online image that I know, like, and trust. And that's why your online image, your LinkedIn profile, should match the person that I meet in the phone call or the Zoom interview. So again, that's why it's so important that your photo, for example, be an updated photo, so that I'm not surprised when you come on the screen and I've looked at your LinkedIn profile and you don't look anything like that photo I see on the LinkedIn profile. Now that creates an air of distrust, because I think you've lied to me about the way you look, right? So you really want to come across as someone Authenticity is very, very important in social media, but also I feel like I know, like, and trust you. A successful job search is all about networking, because if the only person looking for a job for you is you, you're never going to find it. So what you're trying to do is engage with other people so they will keep their eyes open for you and share job information, job opportunities with you. I'm sure that most of you can look back throughout your career, and there have been many times when you have gotten a job because someone told you about it, not because you applied to an ad or responded to an ad. Someone said you should talk to, and then that person said, oh yeah, I know somebody who's looking for. That is the best way to find a job. You want to find and recruit what I call job search allies, people who have their eyes and ears open to funnel information to you. And LinkedIn allows you to stay on their radar screen without asking for anything. So I want to just share some success stories with you, because people say, okay, well, LinkedIn works for you, Elise. You're the LinkedIn driving instructor. But what about regular people? What about normal people? Does it work for them? And the answer is yes. So the first story I want to share is Annette. Annette attended one of my noonday presentations at her college, and her graduate program. And I connected with her shortly after, and she wrote me this message and then gave me permission to share our exchange of emails, of messages on LinkedIn. So she wrote, Dr. Barnes, thank you so much for reaching out. I want to let you know that you gave me lots to think about, reconsider and modify on my page and how to utilize LinkedIn. I already used one of your tips, and I said congratulations to a former colleague for his job anniversary. Because LinkedIn had notified her that it was the job anniversary of her friend Craig, who was one of her connections. And he replied right away. At 3 p.m., we had a Zoom call. We'd not seen each other in about 3 years, and it was wonderful to catch up. Not only that, but he offered to connect me to a few of his friends. Would this be the fastest results from one of your webinars? And I want you to notice here, this is a person she hadn't seen in 3 years, because I get a lot of pushback like, well, I haven't talked to that person in a while. Wouldn't it seem odd? No, it doesn't. People want to know what happened to you. I haven't spoken to you in 5 years. Did you come through the pandemic okay? By the way, this story actually took place a couple months into the pandemic. So asking about, how someone is doing was very relevant and is still relevant, frankly. But she was asking about him. How are you, right? So this was my response to Annette. Annette, thanks for endorsing me, because she endorsed me for LinkedIn instruction. And then most of all, for that incredible story. It made my day. Yes, you get the prize for the fastest results. I'm going to use your story in my next webinar, and I've been using it now for 4 years. And good on you for acting so quickly. I wish more people would. Keep up the good work. It pays off. So my presentation was from 12 to 1, and at 1:05, she wrote to her, messaged her connection on LinkedIn. Hey, Craig, congrats on your work anniversary. That's the part that LinkedIn filled in automatically. But then she took an additional 5 seconds to write, how are things? I hope you and your family are doing well and staying safe. Again, this is 2 months into the pandemic. Again, notice that she did not say, hey, Craig, congrats on your work anniversary. Know of any jobs, right? No, she inquired about him and his family. Okay. So again, people don't like feeling used, like you're just using them. So she expressed an interest in him, right? 5 minutes later, he wrote back. Now, again, this is a person she hasn't seen in 3 years, right? But 5 minutes later, he wrote back, hey, Annette, that's so funny. I was literally just thinking of you as we were heating up some Indian food, remembering our lunches. Doing well on this end, all things considered. How are you? Where are you now? Okay, so he's opened the door to this conversation. Where are you now? What are you doing? Now, she had just graduated from her program, so she's a job seeker. My email is same cell as before. Let's catch up. And 2 hours later, they were on a Zoom call, and they were talking about what she was doing. And now he's offering to connect her to a few of his friends. That's the way you want it to work. Okay. Again, everybody says if you're a job seeker, LinkedIn is essential, but they don't say why. Why? Because it empowers you to actively research the public face of potential employers, to mimic their language and their priorities when you communicate with them. Again, the previous speaker talked about going to their website. Also follow them on social media, because this is their public face. This is how they're trying to portray themselves to the world, right? So you want to speak to that. This is a step that job seekers don't often take, but they should, because this is what will separate you from the others, right? Are they doing things after work, volunteering at homeless shelters, or at at the Humane Society, or cleaning up roads? Those are things that you can speak to that will make the employer know that you are also bought into their culture, their corporate culture. The things that are important to them are also important to you, right? So that they can envision you as a coworker to the team of people who are already there. It empowers you to target and research and connect with potential employers, to bypass HR and the applicant tracking system, which weeds you out. So again, you can find the people that work there, develop relationships with people in the department, so that rather than you sending your resume to HR and as HR sending your resume to the department, you can network, develop relationships with people in the department, so they are sending your resume to HR. And so now that separates you from the other people who are just randomly applying, and their applications getting chewed up, never to come out the other end of the applicant tracking system. Okay, it actually goes from human to human and ends up on somebody's desk. Okay. And finally, it empowers you to tap into the hidden job market where most jobs are filled. It is now estimated that 85% of jobs are filled in the hidden job market and are never published. So again, if you're just applying to jobs on Indeed or Monster, these jobs could be weeks old. The company may be already interviewing candidates. They may have already offered the job to someone. They just haven't taken it off the website yet because the person isn't sitting in the seat yet, okay? Networking is much more effective than sending off hundreds of resumes only to have them swallowed up by the applicant tracking system with hundreds of others, never to come out the other end. The best way to find out about a job is before it hits the streets, when it is being circulated via email and networks, because that is what the employer, they would much rather fill it that way. And that way you're competing potentially against a much smaller pool of people versus applying on the website, where they're getting deluged with thousands of applications from unqualified people. My brother worked for a company where they did the math, and they said that the difference in terms of bringing on a new employee using networking, where they use their current employees to find someone on their behalf, versus putting out a job announcement and going through that process, it saved them about $3,000 per candidate if they use their networks and the hidden job market, versus putting an announcement out on the street and having all of these applications come in, and then they have to, go through this whole process of vetting all of these applications. So the power of LinkedIn is in who you find, not in who finds you. It's in who you find, because the best way to find a job is for your potential immediate supervisor to send your resume to HR with a note saying, I want to hire Craig. What do I need to do? That's a job you're going to get, unless you're just wildly unqualified. The second best way is for an acquaintance or former colleague or someone who works there to send your resume to HR or to the department head with a note that says, I know we're looking for a marketing director or whatever position it is I went to school with, or I know Madeline really well. I worked with her, or I volunteered with her, and she is great. Would you give her application extra consideration? At the very least, you're going to get an interview. And that's where you seal the deal, in the interview. Because we hire and do business with people we know, like, and trust. Because the friend of my friend is my friend. Well, how do you find these people to be your go-between, to be the internal champion for you? Well, you find them on LinkedIn, right? So I want to share another success story with you. And this is from LH, who built relationships using LinkedIn and volunteering to land her dream job. So she wrote me and said, I saw your post, which reminded me that I have been remiss in updating you about my job hunt journey. About a year ago, I found a full-time job that came from building relationships through connections on LinkedIn. Shortly after taking the LinkedIn course with you, I started making connections within the Elliott School at GW, including with my immediate predecessor. So she filled the job of, she is now working at the Elliott School at GW because she started volunteering in the school, which led to my predecessor recommending me as his replacement when he stepped down. So she was volunteering there. And then when her supervisor, the person who was supervising her as a volunteer, decided to step down, he looked at her and said, you know what? I'm going to recommend you as my replacement because you've been really great volunteering here. If I hadn't taken your course and advice about rewarming old connections, I wouldn't be here. This was a person she knew previously in another position. He was now at the Elliott School. She reached out to him, started volunteering there. And then when he stepped down, he recommended her, right? And I also took your advice about building my connections to over 500. Now I have over 1,000 connections. So I have 4 rules of the road. My rules of the road are focused on the top third of your LinkedIn profile because that's what people see when they come to your profile, basically from the About section up. Plant your flag, which is to, again, focus on 2 to 4 skills that you offer. You can't be all over the map. You can't do 17 things well. And in social media, it doesn't work. You really need to focus in on the 2 to 4 skills that you offer. You want to cast a broad net in terms of who you connect with, and then you want to engage. You want to engage with your network. So if you don't capture your viewers' attention there, the rest doesn't matter. They're not going to scroll down to see what's on the rest of your profile anyway, if you don't capture their interest in the top third. So what do I mean by maximizing the top third? Human beings are visual creatures. So you want to have an image behind your headshot, but that's not the most important thing, but it does help reinforce your message because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and images have as much impact as words. Yes, you need a headshot. Yes, you need a headshot. You want it to be friendly because nobody wants to work next to grumpy people. You want it to be industry congruent. So if you work in tech and people wear polo shirts instead of suits and ties, then that's what you should be. Your headshot should be dressed so that you know the dress. You indicate that you know the dress code for your industry. People don't wear suits in Parks and Rec. Okay. But if you're working in banking, they absolutely do. And so you just want to make sure you're dressed appropriately in your headshot. And it should be just your headshot, not you and anyone else, not a full body shot, so that if I've never met you before and all I have is this picture of you and we're meeting in a dimly lit crowded Starbucks, I could find you. Again, I recommend that it be 5 to 7 years old max, because again, you don't want to start off with a lie because then I question everything else you've said about you. Headlines, which is that text immediately under your name. It's usually a who I am, editor, strategic planner, relationship builder, program manager, whatever it is, or what I do. I help organizations go from here to here or whatever that is. And then, or you can do a combination of the two, but not just the title. Titles don't tell what you do. And you want to focus your headline in your About section on the unique skills that you offer, the services that you provide that are unique, that I would want to choose you. You want to wordsmith in Word, on a Word document where there is spell check, and you can also count the characters to make sure it fits because that headline can only be 220 characters. All right. Also, you don't want typos. That does not, create a good first impression. You cannot convince me that you are detail oriented if you misspell oriented. Okay. And in your About section, you want to add validation and context and reinforcement to whatever skills you introduce in your headline. So there should be a consistent through message throughout your profile. So whatever skills you introduce in your headline, you should be talking about the same skills in your About section. And when I scroll down to your skills section, those should be the same top 2-3 skills that you're talking about. Okay. And you want to front load your skills. On your About section, it's only on a laptop, you'll only see about the first 3 lines before you have to click see more. They may not. So you want to front load the most important stuff. If your about section begins with 35 plus years of professional experience. All you've told me is you're old and you worked. And that is not a convincing reason and not a compelling reason to hire you. So here are some customized banners examples that reinforce the skill-based message. Kalima is in cybersecurity and IT security. So she has the computer chip with the lock on it. Liz is a realtor. So there's the sold sign and the key to your new home. Janaea is in nursing informatics. And so she has the word cloud, but what's highlighted are the keywords in her profession, like ICD-10 and EHR and HIPAA. These are all things that people within her profession would know. So she's speaking the language, highlighting the language of her profession. And then Tom Thompson is a business communication strategist helping life science startup leaders, the CEO, the CFO, generate funds and resonate with stakeholders. And so he ties leadership with communication. The art of communication is the language of leadership. So here are the takeaways for focusing on the top third. Use your banner, your headline, and your about section to reinforce your skill-based message. Make sure your top third highlights the unique skills you bring to any employer, no matter what the title is of your job title is. Make the viewer want to see the rest of your profile and invite you to send your resume. Emphasize your skills and your expertise over your experience, because employers want to hire the best, not the oldest. Just because you've done something for a long time doesn't communicate that you were good at it. And that's what you want to communicate, that you were really good at what you do. Focus your headline in your about section. Your headline literally follows you all over LinkedIn. So it is the most important thing to get right, your headline. So in order of importance, your headline, your headshot, your about section, your connections, locations, and banner. Again, don't get wrapped around the axle about the whole banner thing, because most LinkedIn profiles don't have banners, but it's just a nice way to, again, separate and distinguish yourself. What do I mean by planting your flag? You want to present a consistent, persistent message about the no more than 2 to 4 skills you offer. Be specific. Every section of your profile should reinforce the same message. Keep it simple. Use your about section to validate and add context to the skills in your headline. Get endorsements for the same skills that you have in your headline and about section. Have your recommenders validate those same skills. When they write their recommendations, say, I'm highlighting these skills, so that they write about those same skills that you have in your headline and your about sections. And then join groups, follow influencers and companies that validate the skills in your headline. This is a transitioner. Carla was in commercial banking for 30 years, but she was transitioning to be an interior designer. We reduced her 30 years of banking experience to one sentence because it was not relevant to what she wanted to do going forward. And then everything else on her profile was that of an aspiring interior designer. We found other interior designer profiles to see what theirs looked like, what skills did they highlight, and she made sure that she was in alignment with that. And then her posts, her connections, her interests, everything else talked about interior design, and she had her first interior design job before she graduated. So plant your flag takeaways. Focus on no more than 2 to 4 skills. A diffuse message, a message that's all over the map, is ineffective. Focus on the 2 to 4 skills you offer to any employer, no matter what the job title is. We have all done many things, but a potential employer is not interested in a laundry list of everything you've ever done. Focus on the skills and expertise you offer to your next employer, not your last. Focus on the 2 to 4 skills you want to offer, not that you're unemployed. We underestimate who can and will help us. So you want to connect broadly. Now, there are people who are lions who will connect with anyone. Most of us are not comfortable with that, but you don't want to be a turtle where you only connect with people you could write a recommendation for. My philosophy is say yes if someone invites you to connect, unless there's a reason to say no, like they live in a foreign country that you've never been to. And you want to go for at least 501 connections. If you get an invitation from someone to connect and you don't know who they are immediately, then go to their profile and see, maybe you have lots of mutual connections. That's a good reason to connect. Maybe they can provide useful information to you. That's a good reason to connect. Or maybe you have common interests or goals, or there are ways you can help each other. These are all good reasons to connect to someone you don't know. Andy was a job seeker in investor relations. He'd been unemployed for over a year. He was responding to lots of job announcements and getting nothing back. He attended our Career Gateway program, which is a wonderful program. We told him to focus on growing his connections. He went from 500 to about 1,500. Within 2 months of doing that, he was a finalist for 2 jobs, and then he was offered a job the next month. Now, he got the job in May, but unfortunately, the company was supposed to go public. It didn't. And so since he was the last in, he was the first out. He was very discouraged. We told him, you know what to do. So he went back, he grew his connections, but he also circled back to the people who thought, oh, that's great, Andy has a job now, and let them know, things didn't work out. By Christmas Eve, he had another job offer. So you can see how it just shortened the timeline once he knew what to do. All right, my final rule is engage. Focus on building professional relationships, generously provide value to your connections, share great content. One of the things that happens when we've been unemployed for a while is our self-esteem takes a hit and we think we have nothing to offer, but LinkedIn always gives you something to offer. You can offer your expertise. You know what you know. That doesn't go away just because you don't have a job title right now. So you can post about things that are helpful to people that you know, upcoming events, great webinars you attended, articles that you found that are on topic, on brand, right? You can share your connections. You can introduce people to people. You can like and comment and share what other people post. That's helpful to them. You can support them by writing recommendations or endorsements for them. You don't need a job for that. Or just recognize the milestones in their lives. Happy work anniversary, happy birthday, because givers get. So this is one of my clients who has built an entire business using LinkedIn as her marketing tool. She has nearly 6,000 connections. She has a LinkedIn company page where she offers online training. She has a LinkedIn group for reentry workforce educators. She's been paid to offer webinars by people by companies that found her on LinkedIn. And so she has built a business without a website using LinkedIn as her primary marketing tool. And one of the things she did was plant her flag. She didn't talk about anything but reentry workforce development. She intentionally built out her network with other people in that space, and she provided quality content to them to be helpful to them so they would in turn be helpful to her. And then once she met them on LinkedIn, she arranged to have conference calls, meet them for lunch, and focused on building those relationships so they felt comfortable with her. My final success story is my own. I was laid off in 2015. I started this business doing LinkedIn training around my kitchen table. I make half of what I made in my corporate job, but I am 10 times happier. I love what I do. I choose my boss in terms of how I choose my clients, the people that I work with, and the people that I help. And so entrepreneurship gives me flexibility to take care of the people that I love because I have aging parents. So our natural reflex is to look for a full-time job, but maybe at this point, this is not what we need. Maybe we need part-time or entrepreneurship or some other combination. So use this time to figure out what works best for you, how you'd like to spend your day. Maybe your circumstances have changed. Maybe you don't need health insurance from a job anymore. We give ageism more power than it deserves, and some of the wounds are self-inflicted. Someone talked about that earlier. Don't reinforce the stereotypes of older workers, okay? Ultimately, employers want the best service at the best price. Often the first person who says no to our dreams is us, right? There is no reason you cannot do entrepreneurship at this stage in your life, all right? We cannot convince others we can do something if we haven't convinced ourselves that we can do something. Remember, failure, rejection, and no are not permanent, fatal, or personal. So these are 3 great resources. One, the Career Gateway program, which is Jody's going to tell you more about. It is a fabulous program. We also, JCA also offers monthly 50+ employment expos every month between September and June. Fabulous resource, completely free, online available to you. And I offer a monthly LinkedIn training from 5:30 to 8 p.m. the second Tuesday and Thursday of every month in partnership with the Montgomery County Public Library, but you do not have to live in Montgomery County to access it. So I encourage you to take advantage of these resources. This is my final slide. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Oh, yes, we've got lots of questions.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the, so this is, at least, maybe you can spell this. Someone said, my daughters who are 28 and 26 told me that only old people go to LinkedIn looking for work.
That's
So,
nonsense.
okay.
That's nonsense.
Okay, do you want to expand on that or just,
I mean,
okay,
it's just nonsense. I mean, people make up crazy stuff, and it's just nonsense. Every recruiter that I know uses LinkedIn,
right,
so it's just nonsense.
okay. Um, and, someone said, am I required to upload a photo? If I am, then wouldn't this possibly create the bias that was discussed regarding putting a photo on a resume?
No photos on, I mean, again, first of all, you don't want to work for an employer that's going to judge you based on your hair color. Okay, that's not about somebody you want to work for. And
Mhm.
people go to work with green hair on Tuesday and purple hair on Wednesday. So the issue is that we all grew up not talking to strangers, right? Nobody wants, you know, our parents said don't talk to a stranger. So the fact that you don't have a photo, you know, people are like, what's so terrible about your face that I can't see your face? You're a stranger, right? So the main thing is, can you present yourself as a subject matter expert in whatever you do? It might be just organization, it might be managing people's calendars. But I'm going to pay much less attention to your gray hair if I'm focused on the fact that you have expertise that I want, right? People want, in my case, a LinkedIn expert, even though I say my focus is on people 50 and better. I have talked to so many graduate programs filled with 20 somethings because they want the expert. So you need to position yourself as a subject matter expert in something. Um, and it doesn't have to be many things. It can just be one thing that you're really, really good at, that people will care more about that than what you look like.
Okay. This person said LinkedIn is full of scams. Um, can you, because people have these misconceptions about getting on the internet. They're full of scams. I don't feel comfortable doing it. I'd rather just whatever.
Good
So,
luck with that. Okay. I mean, the bottom line is you need to be where the recruiters are looking for you. And recruiters and job managers and hiring managers are looking for people on LinkedIn. So if you're not there, you're reinforcing the stereotype that older people don't know how to use computers. And so you are doing yourself irreparable harm, and it will lengthen your job search. And you will be unemployed for a very long time if you choose. And I'm not saying you have to be on Instagram and Snapchat, and you need to be where they are looking for you. They are looking for you on LinkedIn.
and
So,
mhm, yeah,
no, go ahead.
I think there's the difference. I think some people are thinking, oh, they have those job postings on LinkedIn, but
Mm-hmm.
but and that's fine. But you're not. What you're talking about is using LinkedIn to network. You're not talking
Yes.
about, right. So maybe
And
go ahead.
again, LinkedIn does have a job board,
Hmm.
just like Monster and Indeed and all of that. And that's how they make revenue. Those employers have to pay to put those jobs on there. So yes, but those jobs aren't scams, but they're just like any other. They've been there a while. There are thousands of people applying for them. That's not a scam. That's just, again, if you're only applying to jobs you see online, that's like playing the lotto. Yes, somebody is going to win, but the vast majority of people are not going to win because everybody is applying for those jobs. That is not the most effective way to use LinkedIn as just for the job board. When I teach my class, what I tell people is use the job announcements to find out what the keywords are and make sure
Mm.
those keywords appear on your profile, not to apply for the job. Because again, applying for jobs online, just applying, well, good luck with that.
Hmm.
We teach a methodology in the Career Gateway program that does not focus on that. because again, the people who are sitting in our seats have been doing that and getting nowhere. So you can continue to do what doesn't work, or you can network and get a job.
Right. Should our profile show all of our work experiences?
No, no. Again, the your LinkedIn profile is not your resume. Okay, it is a LinkedIn profile. They should track each other so that it shouldn't be like a disconnect where I think, okay, I'm looking at this resume and none of the jobs on this resume appear on the LinkedIn profile. Who is this person? No, they should track each other. But your LinkedIn profile is so much more than your resume. And you, again, as an older job seeker, I would recommend no more than 15 to 20 years, even on your LinkedIn profile. But your LinkedIn profile gives you an opportunity to really focus on the skill set you offer to your next employer and present a cohesive online message about your skill set versus your resume, which by definition has to be every job you've ever had for the last 20 years listed in chronological order with dates. It's just a different animal.
Right, right. And this is a question that we get all the time. As a job seeker, is it worth the $30 per month to be a premium LinkedIn member?
Yes. Premium. Okay. So there's so much that you can do on LinkedIn for free that people are not using, that my philosophy is do not pay for it until you consistently start bumping up against the limits of what you're able to do for free. So exhaust all of the things that you can do for free. And then when you start consistently getting messages from LinkedIn saying, no, you can't do that unless you pay. No, you can't do that unless you pay. Then, but for job seekers who are trying to make a decision about whether they can pay their mortgage, get their prescriptions, get a new pair of shoes for an interview, that is much more important than paying LinkedIn, because it's ridiculously expensive right now. It always has been. So my answer is no, it's not worth it.
Okay. Should I put on my profile that I have a disability?
No. Front load, focus on the skills that you offer. I have a great story about this. This was a person who was in our Career Gateway program. She had a disability, but she also spoke 5 languages. And I'm like, why are you talking about your disability when you can communicate in 5 freaking languages? That is an amazing skill to have in a global economy. And that is the absolute most important thing. So again, that your disability is nobody's business but you and your potential employer, right? When they've made the offer, right? When there is money on the table, right? Then that's important. Until then, that is nobody's business, right? So think about the skills you offer, front load the skills you offer, not personal information like that.
Okay. Where do I find banner images that are not copyright protected?
Yes, that's very important that you do not, unless you want to pay, I mean, you can pay, but you really, if you don't want to copyright infringe. So there are lots of sources like Pexels, Pixabay, Unsplash, Canva, and they actually have images because the LinkedIn banner is very pixel specific. I think it's like 800 by 1400, but it's like a billboard. So like square images won't fit, but some of these websites actually have images that are already the right size to fit a banner on LinkedIn. They're, because of the specific pixel requirement. So you can also Google that, LinkedIn ready banner images, free banner images. But there are a number of places where you can find them.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. At least I didn't even realize we are past time.
Okay.
So if you could you jump into chat?
Yes, I will.
We've answered a lot of the questions, but go to Susan at 11:28.
11:28.
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
and go, and then, talking about the applicant tracking system.
okay,
And then go down where you've answered a couple of ones following down, because I was kind of jumping around, but then, go from down there and you'll see you'll see questions to answer.
okay,
Again, thank you, Elise, so much for this wonderful presentation.
sure,
And if anyone has questions for Elise, her contact information will be put in chat, as well as you will get this presentation that she had today. And at least you might want to, again, put in, your contact information. People want to reach out to you as well,
sure.
about your, your LinkedIn training and that kind of stuff. Because there were some questions about that as well.
All
Um,
right.
okay, well, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
I know we wanted to take like a